Joined now in just a moment or two by the Skills and Apprenticeships Minister, Gillian Keegan. Just want to show you what was said yesterday. Helen Waitley was talking to us on the programme and she was talking to us in some detail about what she thought would be happening as far as the overnight industry, the late night industry is concerned. And are we going to run that? It'd be good if we could. Yep, let's have a quick listen.
COVID is going to be with us for some months ahead. Doesn't make sense to continue supporting jobs where there simply isn't work at the moment. We've got to support people where they can be working.
So you're not going to support the nightlife industry? It's done, finished, kaput.
As I said, what we have done by bringing in the 10 p.m. closure time is to try and keep hospitality going, to still enable people to go to pubs and bars and restaurants, but to have that earlier closing time.
Gillian Keegan is with us. Hello to you.
Hello.
Flawless. Well, on the telly, it's just flawless. Tell me, which lockdowns, which curfews have worked so far?
Well, it's hard to tell, isn't it, when you've got a doubling of cases every 10 days, you know, what's worked so far. I mean, clearly the first one did protect the NHS, save lives.
Local lockdowns.
Local lockdowns, I mean, right now, what we have to do is get that R rate below 1. And with cases doubling every 10 days, this is a very serious situation. So what makes these lockdowns work is people following the guidelines, which is obviously hands, face, space, and rule of 6, or now in some of these areas, actually single households, if we've got sort of more local restrictions. If they're not followed, you know, they're not going to work. It is absolutely in all of our hands now, and it is a serious situation when you've got this cases doubling every 10 days.
Which ones have worked so far?
In terms of what?
Well, you tell me what the criteria is for it working, because obviously you keep introducing them.
Yeah.
So which of the lockdowns have worked as far as the government?
The ones that get followed work. So the vast majority of people in this country follow the guidelines, which is why many places, you know, won't be under additional restrictions. And it does differ around the country.
Okay, so which areas that have been under lockdown have actually come out of lockdown?
I think, I'm not an expert on this, but I think in Leicester there were some signs that there was some improvement in terms of the rate. Yes, because obviously we need to make sure that, you know, this R rate goes below 1. It actually is doubling. All over the country, the cases are going up. And so, that's actually...
My point is we're heading towards another national lockdown. Because the regional lockdowns are not working, quite obviously.
I think if they're followed, they'll work. That is the simple message. If people follow them, they will work. We've only got one thing to combat coronavirus, and it's soap and hand sanitizer if you touch something, and keeping distance away for the airborne version. So
because we're not washing our hands, it's not working?
Well, honestly, you say that this is a really important point.
Yeah, it really is.
It's the only thing that kills the virus.
OK,
right?
So you're blaming my viewers for not washing their hands?
No, but we all have to do it. If you touch something, we know that lots of people are asymptomatic in the country. You can't tell right now if I've got coronavirus.
Which is why we need a national lockdown.
Which is why we're sat. What a national lockdown does is we've had a national lockdown.
We have.
You know, it keeps, and we did that for very important reasons, to protect the NHS. What that does is it does keep the rate down, of course. Nobody's going anywhere, nobody's doing anything. But in terms of the economic impacts and the impacts on our livelihoods, it's absolutely devastating. So it isn't an option to stay in national lockdown forever. We have to learn to live with it. And, you know, you say about hands and, you know, telling viewers to wash their hands.
No, you say it, not me.
It's important. I am saying it. I'm saying it. It's so important. The only thing that kills this virus, if you've touched it and somebody else has had it before you, is washing your hands before you touch your face.
OK, the Mayor of London calling for tougher restrictions, other regional leaders calling for tougher restrictions as well. Why are you listening to leaders in the north and not listening to the Mayor of London?
I'm sure they are listening. I mean, you know...
When you say they, you mean you?
Well, the government, SAGE,
the
scientific advisors as well will be looking at all of this. You know, it is serious that we are in this situation where cases are escalating. And, you know, what we're hoping to do is these rules with new enforcement will, you know, start to have an impact, that people will start to follow them. Well, most people are following them, but everybody else will follow them. They'll start to have an impact. But, you know, of course, it's constantly under review. If they continue to double, or the case rate goes up, or R stays over 1 and it continues to go up, it will have to be reviewed, Jess.
Yeah, you're talking about the scientists and following the science. Where did the scientists say that the 10 p.m. curfew was a good idea?
The 10 p.m. curfew is about reducing the amount of socialising. So what the science shows us is that the virus is largely being passed on through people socialising, which is understandable, right? We all relax a bit more when we socialise, when we have people round.
It's not backed up by the figures.
What it does is it takes an hour off the socialising time, reducing socialising. The same as the rule of
3.2%, I'm sorry, but 3.2% of COVID cases last week came from the hospitality sector. 3.2%.
Yes, yes. And actually, we know that the hospitality sector have done a brilliant job of making their places
So
COVID
why are you
secure.
punishing them?
Because we're trying to reduce the amount of socialising. So we know that a lot of people socialise in their homes, which is why we've got the rule of 6 now. Really unfortunate. If you'd have told us a year ago we'd be living under any of these restrictions, none of us would have believed it.
Yeah, but we are.
We are.
And you acknowledged just then that you are punishing the sector.
No, not punishing
that's what
the
you
sector.
said.
We're trying to keep it open, actually. We're trying to keep it open.
What are you doing about the nighttime sector? It's worth just checking £66 billion to the economy in 2019, 5th biggest sector in the UK. None of it's open.
No, and it's easy to see, right, that, you know, nightclubs, which, you know, I'm sure we all enjoy going to, it's difficult to see how you can have a nightclub operating with coronavirus in any sort of enjoyable way.
Those jobs have gone, haven't they?
Well, I think for now, I guess there is. You know, we've had 6 months on furlough, which has been there to, you know, try and protect those parts of the economy that you know, can start moving again. But it is hard to see how nightclubs will open until we have some kind of long-term way to deal with coronavirus. You know, that is for sure true. And, you know, today we're introducing a new focus on adults, really, which is just being able to offer people the chance to reskill, upskill, take different routes in life, because they may need to. It's really unfortunate. Some of those things have accelerated. Some of those things have been cut off without hardly any notice, which is why we had the furlough scheme to, you know, to give people that time. But you can't continue you know, indefinitely with that. And it is clear that some of those jobs may take a long time to come back,
so just
because
to
they don't fit with the virus.
Just to clarify, you're saying that nightclubs and the nightlife industry will not start again until we have a vaccine?
Well, it's difficult to see. I mean, I'm not saying that, but I think it's difficult to see how you could go to a nightclub.
But you did say
within the rule of 6.
What did you mean by that?
Well, until, you know, hands, face, space. I mean, you've been to a nightclub. I mean, how can you socially distance and have a good time in a nightclub? I think it is difficult to see how you could keep the coronavirus under control indoors in those kind of situations, which is why they haven't been opened yet. You know, that is part of the...
Same for the theatre industry?
Well, the theatre industry is probably a little bit of a different, you know, they have had these pilots, and some of those pilots are continuing with trying to, you know, have distance people, live stream some things. So they have been trying to, you know, having a virtual reality nightclub experience is a difficult, you know, it's difficult.
Yeah, but we're talking about an industry worth £66 billion.
There is no doubt coronavirus has had a devastating effect on the economy.
And your colleagues yesterday put a bill through the House, or it was in the House of Commons, bill's the wrong word, and basically, well, definitely, you're going to ban singing and dancing in pubs. You're going to ban... This is like something from 1984.
You couldn't believe it, I tell you.
I can't believe it. Tell me why it's a good idea.
Singing, we haven't even had singing back in churches yet. Singing is because the airborne elements of the virus is accelerated by singing. That's, you know, we get back to the simple rules. Well, I guess it's hard to keep your space if people are moving and you don't know how someone else is going to move when you're dancing. You know, I think there is probably some reasons.
Do you acknowledge how ridiculous this sounds?
No, I think it's common sense. I think it's common sense. If you put a lot of people together and say, all of you can move, but all of you have to keep 2 metres apart, I think it's common sense.
Even though only 3.2% of COVID cases come from that environment?
Will come from the hospitality environment in terms of the pubs. The pubs have been made very COVID secure, and restaurants have been made very COVID secure.
So why not let them stay open till after 10 p.m?
Well, they can stay open up till 10 p.m.
Yeah, but why not afterwards if they're very COVID
because
secure?
Because we, at the moment, have a doubling in case rate every 10 days.
But not from that industry.
Well, it is from socialising, and socialising happens in those
But they're
industries.
COVID secure. That you've just said
They
they're
are COVID secure.
So why not let them go past 10 p.m?
Because right now we are trying to limit the amount of socialising, which is why we've
Shut them
put in
down.
new
Then.
places.
Shut them down.
We don't want to shut them down. We've spent all that
Why don't
time
you
and
want to shut
effort.
them
They've
down?
spent all that time
So
and effort.
why don't you want to shut them down?
Because they're a vital part of our
So why
life.
not let them stay open later? And
Getting
then
the
they-
balance
and then
is
they,
right.
And then they can earn a living.
So if they stay open later, we don't get control of the virus, the cases continue to double, the R rate goes up,
but you said
then
they're
what you
COVID
end up with,
secure.
and what you end, they are COVID secure.
So whether they're open till 10 or 11, they're COVID secure. It doesn't really matter, does it?
Well, in terms of socialising, it's about what people do afterwards. So in the pub, you know, obviously we're trying to make sure that people can still go to the pub. And, you know, 10 p.m, OK, it's 1 hour below what most of them would close.
People just
by.
starting earlier.
Well, in which case the pubs will still make some money, I guess.
So what's the point in, you know, your point is that when people get drunk or get relaxed, then they're going to not abide by the rules, even though you've said that they're COVID secure. I'm saying if they start an hour earlier, they're still going to have as much booze in them at 10 o'clock as they would have.
I mean, you know, maybe some young people will. You know, where did we get this idea from? This idea came from Belgium, right? We looked at what happened in Europe. We looked at all the schemes they put in place.
So it's not from the science, is it?
Well, we looked at the schemes put in place and we looked at the ones that worked. And the Belgian one, they put in place the curfew and the case numbers started to come down. That is the science, the evidence that we have.
Yeah, but their industry is not 66 billion. Ours is. I cannot tell you how many messages I've received over the last 24 hours after your colleague sat there and said, collateral damage.
Well, I don't.
That wasn't her phraseology.
That is definitely not what she said, and definitely didn't mean.
What she said is that some jobs will have to go, sadly.
You know, we
an
have
industry that's the 5th biggest industry in the UK and worth 66 billion
and an integral part of our culture as well.
That are being very COVID secure by your own admission.
Yes, I think the question you asked her yesterday was specifically about nightclubs and nightclub bouncers, and you know, nightclubs aren't open yet. That is more difficult.
And the theatre I asked her about as well.
Yeah, and that is more difficult where you've got that kind of, you know, that kind of environment. But, you know, what we're trying to do is to keep this sector open. We're trying to make sure...
What are you doing to keep it open?
To keep it open till 10 p.m, to open it and to make sure that people can still go. We've had the Eat Out to Help Out scheme. We've had
look
lots
how that
of
worked
other
out.
schemes.
Look how that worked out.
Eat Out, you know, Eating Out to Help Out, I think did work out. It got people back to the pubs. It got them confident.
And then we saw a spike in the virus.
Most people were eating out to help out before 10, to be honest. You know, that is quite late for people to be eating. We did see a spike in the virus, and we have, you know, we've got to learn to live with this. And we have definitely seen, as more and more things open up, as more and more people go out, that, you know, the rates of infection have gone up. But it is still vital. If you really do wash your hands every time and sanitise, if you really do stay 2 metres apart and you do wear a face mask, protect others and yourself, it really will work. It will work. That is the only weapons we have right now to control this virus. So that's why we're urging everybody to do that and also download the app. So if we do, you know...
Is it working now?
Yeah, well, 12 million people have downloaded it.
It's working.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it is working in terms of...
What do you mean you think?
I haven't had a ping myself. So, you know, obviously I haven't been in touch with anybody who has coronavirus yet. But it is contacting...
Test yourself?
No, I haven't, no.
Okay, so I have. I tried to put it in and it wouldn't take the number.
Did you have the test at the NHS?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, because I think there were some teething problems which they were saying they were sorted out.
So mine should have been taken and it didn't.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, they will have to make sure that any of these...
Don't keep saying they because it's weak, isn't it?
You know, the people who have developed this app will have to make sure the government's instruction that any of these teething troubles are worked through. I mean, you know, software isn't perfect, but I mean, I've spent 30 years working in software. I definitely know that. But, you know, it is important, this app. It's important that we download it. It's important that we work with it. It's important that we listen to the advice. You know, if you have a danger of having a coronavirus, you know, most people won't be able to tell that.
Sure.
Too many people are asymptomatic for us to be relaxed about this. It is out there. It is there everywhere. So we need to really be serious about, you know, following the rules. Okay. The vast majority of people are following the rules.
Quick thought on flu vaccines. Are you going to have one?
Unfortunately, I'm now in the category over 50, so it will be my first one. But yes, I will have one.
OK, but you have to be over 65, I think, to have the first lot.
I think that's to get it for free, and I think there's a small charge for over 50, but I think it's for over 50s now. I think we've got 30 million vaccines that are available.
When are you going to have yours?
I haven't booked it yet, but I will book it in the local chemist, probably.
OK. Good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. I'm sorry it was such a hassle to start with. We appreciate you taking the time to join us.